Please welcome SPAN founder and CEO, Arch Rao.
Hi, good evening. I'm Arch. I'm the founder and CEO of SPAN. It's great to see so many of you in person. I wasn't sure if this was going to be able to come together, but I'm really glad you're all here. You can move a little bit closer here. There's plenty of space right in front of us. Come on over. Good evening, and I'm really excited to be here. I want to start by thanking our hosts, David, Warner, and Suzanne, to host us in their lovely home. For those of you that don't know, David is not just a well-known, renowned builder here. He is one of the preeminent advocates for clean energy. His house here, I think, is powered by around 20 kilowatts of solar. It's got 9 power walls, I want to say, batteries in the house, and EVs, so it's great. I'm really glad that we're able to host here today. I'm excited to share with you guys what we've been working on over the last year. We've been really impatient to share all the stuff that we've been doing at SPAN. That's been phenomenal. So let's get started. Yeah? There's been a lot of talk recently about electrification, and we don't necessarily always know what's happening in our homes. For those of you that think about how your appliances are powered today, there's a good part of it that comes from electricity. There's a part of it that's powered by natural gas, and our vehicles are mostly powered by fossil fuels like petroleum. When you think about the mix of resources, we want to try to reframe the problem from supply and demand to thinking about it more from the perspective of fuels that power our life and the appliances. Join me in going on a thought experiment. Imagine if we were able to convert everything to electric. That's the goal, right? If you want to decarbonize, if you want to move away from fossil fuels, if you were to convert everything to electric, that sounds like a great vision, but there are some hurdles along the way. In order to electrify everything, we're going to need about twice the amount of grid infrastructure we have today, just to be able to power all the homes that we have with purely electric supply. And it still doesn't change the fact that a good part of our everyday life, like when we cook, when we heat our water, when we heat our spaces, is still dependent on fossils. And there isn't an easy way to supplant those gas molecules with electrons. So we need solutions that are perhaps more complete than that. Think about all the pieces that we need. We certainly need to be able to generate power that's renewable. So we need grid-scale solar and grid-scale wind that can power our homes. But that's the first part of the journey that many of us have been working on for the last decade and a half, sometimes more. We also need to be able to put solar on our roofs, on as many roofs as possible, so that we can have local sources of clean energy being supplied to our homes. We need to be able to transform our appliances into electric appliances so that we can consume those electrons locally. And beyond all of this, we need to have homes that are responsive and can assist the power grid in being better, being cleaner. This, I think, is our path to decarbonization, and I strongly believe that this is our decade to decarbonize. I'm really fortunate to have a few phenomenal advisors, and I'm going to have some of them come and speak from their perspective, but also hopefully speak on behalf of SPAN. I want to start by inviting Saul Griffith up on stage. Saul is a good friend, but also a very thoughtful and quantitative speaker about electrification, who's just written a beautiful book called Electrify. You'll all receive a copy of it. You'll all receive a copy of it on the way out. But for now, I'd love to yield the stage to Saul.
How do I start this story? Well, thank you all for being here. It's maybe the only audience in the country where you get applauded for writing a book, non-fiction, about the energy sector. The origin of the book was probably when I was thinking about proposing to my wife. I said I was concerned about climate change. The first time I was arrested for climate change was COP3, Kyoto. Anyway, I said to my wife, if by 2020 we haven't made sufficient progress on climate, can I become an eco-terrorist? Because I'm perfectly trained. I have the beard of the Unabomber. I went to MIT. I have the PhD. I understand infrastructure. And she said yes, and we got married, and then we had 2 kids, and then it was 2019. And I said, you know, it's 2020 next year. We're not on track. do you mind if I become the eco-terrorist? And she said, actually, no. I renege. But she said, you can go to DC and you can take the year off actually building companies, which is my normal job, and you can become a writer, an activist, and a policymaker. So I have spent the last 2 years basically doing hand-to-hand combat in the US Senate and the US House, advocating for electrification. I wrote the book, Electrify. It was really written for an audience of one, Joe Biden and his advisors, and is literally the plan of what you need to do if you are to decarbonize America on track for a 1.5 degree goal. And it walks through that in great detail, literally down to counting the machines that we need to electrify in the next decade and the decade after it to achieve that. So what excites me about what Arch is doing and what SPAN is doing is that the load center is central to this whole game. I was actually giving a talk to the US Senate earlier this year where I said, you know, I showed a graph very much like the one Arch just showed. I said, stop thinking about supply and demand because that's where the energy conversation has been stuck for 50 years. Think about demand because this is where voters and humans live. And this is, you know, if we electrify this, this has to follow. And then I said, so all we have to do is 280 million vehicles, 90 million natural gas furnaces, 75 million natural gas water heaters, 19 million natural gas clothes dryers, 55 million gas ovens, 20 million gas stovetops, couple more, I'm forgetting something. It's about 100 million Weber barbecues, of course. So that's about 500 million machines. Of course, if you're going to electrify those, as SPAN knows only too well, you also need to upgrade the main panel. You need to put solar on the roof to support that. You need some batteries. You need a couple of vehicle chargers. So that's another 120 million spans. Set your goals high. You know, 100 million solar installations, et cetera, et cetera. That adds up to 1 billion machines. So if we are to stay on target climate-wise, you need to do those 1 billion machines in 25 years, which translate to 50,000 homes have to go on the full electrification journey per month, every month for the next 25 years. Or conveniently, 25 years is 1 billion seconds, which means 1 span a second. Get on it.
That's the end of the show, guys.
That's it. So, you know, this is Silicon Valley where people think big and dream big, but I think it's really important for us to base ourselves on that reality, right? So there's a concept in climate circles called committed emissions. That is, if you bought a petrol-powered truck last year, it will emit carbon dioxide for about 20 more years, its lifetime. The machines that are already born today will emit enough carbon dioxide to take us to 1.8 degrees. So our only pathways to 1.5 is to do every single machine that is running on fossil fuels as it retires, gets replaced with an electric. You retire coal plants and heavy emitters early, and then you clean up with a little bit of sequestration. But you don't bet the house on it, which is what the Australian government will do in Glasgow next week. Fuck them. So today, we've had a victory. I started a non-profit last year called Rewiring America. I'll be taking donations in a small paper bag at the end of the event. Its mission is to take all American households on this electrification journey. We thought we would be building the consumer army. What the climate movement has never had is a centrist group driven by the economics of it and the good news story for the children, etc. So we want to go and build that. But you know, we arrived with the mess of American politics earlier this year, and there was no one swimming in the building electrification lane. So we wrote that policy this year. So I've had a first-hand account of the infrastructure bill, the climate bill. We have succeeded today. It looks like it will go through. We'll get $6 billion in wholesale rebates for low middle income homes to purchase things such as SPAN, 30% tax credits for wealthier homes to do the same thing. All told, maybe 50 to the The ink is wet and it's a little smudged. You know, pulling it out of Joe Manchin's hands has made the documents a bit hard to read. But it's like $50 to $80 billion, very much directed on home electrification. You might have seen my colleague Sam Kalish quoted a bunch of times in the New York Times front page today on this. We were able to also do some of that for the commercial building sector. And then there's the Clean Cars for America program. So that's all going pretty well. Thank you. So here's a request. Everyone here is too libertarian and doesn't get involved enough in policy. More than half of the price of all of the energy we consume as consumers is a regulatory burden. If we roll up our sleeves, we can make this easier for the rest of us, but it means that we need to actually get engaged as a group, and Silicon Valley is terrible as a whole at getting engaged. So come and help me get engaged in DC. So that's enough. I've beaten you, gave you a laugh. Finish with. So I actually moved to Australia during the pandemic, and I wanted to tell you a story of the future, because I actually live in the future in Australia and California. What do I mean by that? Australian federal government, by accident and fluke, a decade ago, made the right federal policies that solar installs in Australia on rooftops at 95 cents a watt. And it's installed 24 to 48 hours after you order it. And if you do that at consumer financing rates, that's 5 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour. That is cheaper. In the US, if you can make electricity for free, once you transmit it and distribute it, it costs 7 to 8 cents. So we now have, the data is in, and rooftop solar will be, if we allow it, by winning the regulatory battles that make these ones $3 a watt. That will be the cheapest energy source in the world. Batteries are crushing it. Once we get batteries to $100 to $200 a kilowatt hour, once we get solar to $1 a watt, once we get electric vehicles to cost parity with gasoline, which I think is 2024, 2025. The average American home will save $2,500 a year. The average Australian home will save $5,000 to $6,000 a year, and we can sell it on the economics. So, last thought, we're 3 doublings away from being at scale on solar, 3 doublings away from being at scale on batteries, 4 doublings away from being at scale with electric vehicles, and 8, 10 doublings away on smart.
A little bit less, but yeah.
7.
Sure.
But we need to ramp that up as quickly as possible. If there's going to, Glasgow is going to be a disappointment, I hate to say. As much as we did well with the US government this year, that represents 10% emission reductions by 2030, not 50%. So it needs to be a consumer-led revolution. We need to do it on the economics, and we need brave people like Arch to succeed. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Saul. Yeah. I'm really fortunate to have friends like Saul fighting the good fight on the regulatory front. It is not an easy path to be on. Certainly hard to get your spouse aligned with you to do that. So well done. So it's pretty simple. All we have to do is decarbonize and electrify, right? So let's talk about the SPAN plan. Some of you know that we started the company about 2.5, 3 years ago, and the very first part of the plan was we know that all these devices, as they proliferate into our homes, we're going to need to upgrade our panels, and that's it. Let's reinvent the electrical panel. And what you see behind you here and what you see down in David's garage are current versions of Gen 2 of the SPAN panel. There's a lot of really, really interesting things that it can do, and we can talk about that, but I think today we're going to talk about what else we've been working on. Unfortunately, homes come in a lot of different forms, electrical panels in more forms than that even. So as we've continued to deploy lots and lots of these products in US homes, we've gathered a tremendous amount of data in what the complexities are installed in these homes and where there are gaps to electrify. Electric panels naturally come in different forms. They happen to be located in really weird places in some homes. And most of all, if you want to think about a smart connected panel, connectivity is key, and that's simply not easy in most places. So SPAN is solving for every situation. We currently have panels in over 28 states and Puerto Rico, so nearly 30 states across the US where we have our panels installed with customers that have been loving their experience. And we're continuing to grow this fleet of SPAN panels out there. But there are a few key learnings we've had along the way that we've tried to implement. So Gen 1 panel to Gen 2 panel, we've always tried to solve for an installer experience that is phenomenal. We see the electrical contractor and installer as our first customer and the homeowner as our sustaining customer. So we wanted to make it easier for them to install it. Like we would like to joke about this internally. A really good electrical contractor is going to open up our box and throw away the installation manual, and they should still be able to install the product. And they should have the flexibility to configure it any which way they want, given the constraints of a home. And we really solve for that. We are now empirically aware that most homes need more than one panel. So think about your own homes. You might have a main panel and a sub panel. On average, we see about 1.1 to 1.2 panels per home in the US so far. And I think that will continue to grow. So soon we'll have the ability for us to support multi-panels in a home and still be able to give people all the visibility they need inside a home. On connectivity, we really wanted to solve for any configuration. So it's multimodal. Think about it, Wi-Fi and Ethernet connectivity into the panel itself. When that doesn't work, you have the ability to use the cellular backhaul that's already built into every generation of SPAN panels that are out there today. And we wanted it to be something that can work even if you have no internet. Ironically, I've experienced this firsthand. When you have a power outage and you don't have, your ISP fails as well, how do you interact with your home? How do you interact with the SPAN panel? And what's really neat is we've built the technology and the hardware to allow for over-the-air software updates. So as early as next year, in the first quarter, we'll roll out a software update to existing SPAN owners, where they can now interact with their panel even if they have no connectivity to the outside world. But there's more. About a third of all homes in the US have panels with integrated meters in them. And more if you think about states where the adoption of solar and storage and batteries are prevalent. So we didn't have a really good solution until just now. So today, I'm really excited to announce our SPAN meter panel. So you can see behind me. And the goal was very simple, right? We didn't want there to be a single home or a single family home out there in the US that couldn't be enabled by SPAN. And with this product, we're able to go into virtually every home that's in the US. There are some really neat features about it, and we'll talk about it when we step down and you can actually physically interact with the product. As you probably know, there are some homes that have overhead services and some homes that have underground services, and the cost of relocating circuits or relocating your panel is quite expensive. So we wanted to solve for a single product that could literally be rotated 180 degrees and installed as an above ground or below ground service. When we continue to make innovations in this space that we're excited about, and I want to share more about it. When you get a chance, please do go around and interact with the panels. I think it's really neat. So great, we've reinvented the panel. What's next? We have to solve for every journey. Electrification is not something you wake up and say, today I will electrify, right? It's absolutely a multi-variable, complex optimization problem. Well, maybe that's not a fun way to put it. But there's definitely a lot of decisions that go into making your home electric. And that's something we obsess over at SPAN. Homeowners want to do many things. Some of them want to get an EV, some of them want to put solar on their roofs, some of them want to get a battery, and some of them want to electrify their appliances. But the things that they're motivated by can be just as diverse, right? Some of them want to do it because it's the environmentally right thing to do, and some of them want to do it because they're driven by the economic incentives of doing it. So if you take these decision points and these drivers, you end up with a million different iterations or combinations of ways that people progress through their journey to electrify or adopt clean energy. And that makes it inherently complex to have a one-form-fits-all solution. Take, for example, a customer that wants to get a solar system, right, or buy an EV, and then they want to get a solar, and they want to get a battery. At some point, they get blocked because the infrastructure they have in their home simply doesn't allow them to progress on that journey. And at that point, they are either defeated by the cost of things or the complexity of things, and they walk away. This is not unique to any single customer. We've seen this happen time and time again. Customers that have adopted an EV and then blocked because now they cannot add any more loads to their home or electric appliances to their home. Or a customer that's decided to go solar but can no longer get a battery because of the same limitations that they have in their home from an electrical panel perspective. We are designing a product. SPAN unblocks every single journey. And that's the goal of the product. This is how we believe we're going to decarbonize, by making it incredibly incredibly attractive products, but also incredibly easy for customers or homeowners to make the decision to say, today I want to get an EV charger and not have it be a constraint in terms of adopting an EV charger. Today I want to get a battery and not have that be limited by the infrastructure they have in the home today. To talk more about stories and journeys, I'd like to invite Jonathan Scott, a friend and a much better storyteller than I am.
All right. Thank you. Can we go back to that diagram for 1 second? Do you have the ability? This is a diagram. Go to the very end of that diagram. This was clearly done by an engineer.
Right.
I am a very, very simple guy. They told me, don't go off of the mark. Stay on the mark. I'm a very simple guy, and for those of you who don't know, my brother and I have some shows. We do a show called Property Brothers, and we help people renovate their dream homes. And we've been fortunate that for the last 12 years, we've had 3 of the highest rated series in all of cable television, and so there's a little job security. We just finished our 550th episode of our shows, which means we've helped 550 families. Thank you. I didn't have a book to hold like Saul, so I felt I had to say something like that. But all right. Anyway, one of the big things that we have always been very, very interested in is, not just trends, but what is going to make the experience of living in your home better? What will make your home healthier? What will make you happier? People love technology, and people have been talking about smart home tech for so long now. They love that they can listen to their music wherever they want. They can connect their devices. And what we've been trying to say to people for the longest time is that that's just like putting lipstick on a pig, because you're just putting devices onto a dumb system. How do you actually create a brilliant home instead of just all of the flashy stuff that you see? Enter when I discovered Arch, and I discovered what he was working on. I discovered Span. The interesting thing, I'm not a very good public speaker. I'm good at banging nails, and I'm good at doing all that stuff.
There's no retakes, man.
But yeah, can we go back? Is this live? So what's interesting for me, we had been talking about the fact that what does every single home have that connects every single device in your home, and nobody thinks it's sexy? The panel. We've literally been using the exact same breaker panel for over 100 years. Is there anything else in the world that we would let sit that stale for that long? No. This is something that is not only going to help people future-proof their home. When you look at some of the tragic things that have happened over the last while, like in Texas when the power outages happened, the fact that you could take a system like this, and if there was a power outage in your home, in the future, you wire it all together. You could go and you could charge your EV at a supercharge station, come back to your home, and power your home off of your EV. These are the kinds of things that people don't think about. I love the fact that this is something that will actually solve problems that, we're trying to think ahead, not only just things that are cool, like being able to monitor the usage of your appliances and see if something's using more power than it should, but also the fact that it's creating a safer home. So for me, I was raised to question everything. I don't believe a lot of the tech that comes out until I've really kicked the tires. I've literally looked under the hood of these devices, and that's why I'm excited to be here, because I think we're doing something that is very special. I think future-proofing our homes so that as new technologies come along, you are automatically ready to start adopting these technologies, and the only way that can happen is if we go to the heart of the home, which is the panel, and we do something like this. So for me, I love seeing the data. I love seeing all the analytics. But more importantly, I love creating a conversation with our audience. I love creating a conversation with people who are also interested in this kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be up to us to really reach out to people that we know and tell them about something like this that they didn't even know exists that's going to transform their lives. So that's all I wanted to say. I think it's very exciting, and I thank everybody for being a part of it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Like I said, he's certainly a better storyteller than I am, and I'm really glad Jonathan is here to spend time with us. He's been a great advisor to the company, and we're also looking to do some projects together in the near future. So great. So we have figured out a way to solve for every journey with the products we're building today, but there's still the last missing piece of the story of our plan, which is how do we turn every home into a Span home? There are a number of obvious consumer realities that we have to grapple with. The fact that it's not easy to electrify. It's not a scalable model to just trust altruism to be the driver for adoption, right? There are very, very many things that end up being outside of the economics of things, the complexity of things, just human mentality precludes us from progressing very quickly here. So we have to think a bit differently, right? We really want to make products desirable. We want to make these products go from, I think it'll be great for me to have this because I can save a few bucks, to, holy shit, I want this. I want a span home. And that's where we want to go. You can think about parallels in this, where Nest made thermostat sexy. You can think about Tesla making the electric car sexy. And I think that's, you will see from our physical products to the apps that we built, we want this to be something that evokes desire from every customer, from every homeowner. So I'm really excited to share with you where we're going. It's the span home.
Span reinvented the electric panel to enable the span home. A span home is self-reliant. It can make its own energy and make decisions on when to use that energy. It can warn you of an outage, prepare itself, and adapt its energy use to endure even the most severe outages. A home cannot be self-reliant until it is all electric. With unconstrained power, a span home allows you to upgrade your gasoline car and gas appliances to their electric superiors. A span home is looking out for you. It tells you if something bad has happened, is happening, or will happen to your most expensive appliances. A span home is a model citizen of the grid. It assists the grid at times of need with little inconvenience to you. Span homes will help us decarbonize faster.
I don't know, that's pretty awesome sounding to me. So a self-reliant home, that's something that we're already starting to enable today. If you think about our panels out in the world today, we're able to help customers not just be protected in an outage, but give them the type of functionality that simply doesn't exist anywhere else. We give them this real-time feedback of how much outage protection you can get with the batteries you have in your home. We let you know what can be adjusted in terms of priorities to get more out of your existing backup systems, and this is something that's becoming, unfortunately, too real for too many people across the country. And I think we're also getting to a place now where we can get very accurate in terms of how much battery you're going to have, and potentially, or not just potentially, we're able to do this today, how much solar you're going to produce in the next few days, so you can help have that information decide how your span panel should protect your home. That's pretty exciting, but I think that's the first step, and we don't think a self-reliant home is sufficient. We want to have an all-electric home. I'm incredibly excited to share something that we've been diligently working on for a while. This is something that's been part of our roadmap from the beginning of the company, back in 2018. And this, I think, fundamentally addresses one of the biggest hurdles to adoption of a key electrification solution. Behind you are some walls with the products on display. I hope you get some time to interact with the products. I have to say, I'm just genuinely thrilled to be talking about this product with you guys today. The home charging experience is so critical to the adoption of electric vehicles, and it has been a less than experience for so many customers. Either you're having to incur significant costs to upgrade panels, or you're getting lower charging than your car can handle. And by virtue of the fact that the span drive EV charger pairs with the span panel, we're able to see exactly how much capacity you have in your home, and exactly how much, and maximize the amount of power that can be delivered to your car without having to be limited by the constraints of the other appliances in your home, or for that matter, the amount of electric power coming into your home. So even if you have a fairly small service from the utility, this does not constrain you from adopting an EV, or for that matter, a full level 2 charger in your home, and I think that's path-breaking. Outside of enabling electric vehicle charging, we think about the continued adoption of other appliances in your home. So if you think about a typical home today, you're going to see a lot of the common appliances like your dryers and your pool pumps. But I think one thing that's missing in our understanding of how we consume power is that these devices very rarely are coincident loads, that they're not operated at the same time, and they're rarely operating at the maximum power capacity or power level. That means there's usually quite a bit of headroom, and I think the statistics suggest that in an average home, only about 30% of your available capacity is being used. That's sort of the steady state consumption, which means there's quite a bit of headroom for us to continue to inspire homeowners to add more electric appliances. So we think there are a number of appliances we should add into a home. So as you think about getting electric heat pumps or induction stovetops or EV charging, the span panel allows you to add these without incurring the exorbitant cost and complexity of having to upgrade the incoming feed into your home. And this is incredibly critical to press on or to emphasize, because the cost and complexity of having to upgrade all the incoming infrastructure into all of our homes is prohibitively long and prohibitively expensive. And we're solving that with technology, we're solving that with software in the product. And not just this, in the continued theme to inspire homeowners to make the choice to move to an all-electric solution, we have built a consumer app experience that allows you to see what circuits you have available or breakers you have available in your home that could be leveled up or powered up to a more better electric superior. And we use this as an engagement tool, not as a sales tool, but an easy way for us to engage customers and tell them, hey, you could actually get an electric water heater instead of the gas water heater you have in your home, and this is what it's going to look like. And we think that's incredibly powerful in nudging customers and homeowners towards a better future. Finally, we think it's important for us to talk about how the span panel is looking out for you. We already have an unprecedented amount of data about how you're consuming energy and how your appliances are behaving. And today, if you're a span owner, you can see these insights being generated and offered to you through the span app. So you can see where your power came from, how much of it is going to different appliances, how your solar is performing. But we think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to use data intelligence and data engineering to go to the next level. So internally, we've been calling this project the check engine light project. So if you think about it, all of our cars have a somewhat ambiguous orange light that goes off in your car that says something could be wrong. You have no clue what's going wrong, but it prompts you to go think about it. There isn't an equivalent for that for the largest asset we all have, our homes. And that's essentially what Span Panel can do for you. We're able to start telling you if there's an appliance that might be anomalously performing or consuming more power than it did previously. If that's not interesting for you, we'll let that be for a bit. If it continues to underperform, we'll start nudging you a bit harder. And I think if it continues to be a poorly performing appliance that could be more efficient, we'll give you the opportunity to engage with the service provider that can then come help you either replace the product or fix the product. Looking out into the future, we think there's an opportunity for us to offer safety solutions. If, for example, you leave your home and you left your curling iron, which I often do, on in your bathroom, there's an opportunity for us to warn you about that and say, hey, there's potentially a safety risk, and would you like us to turn the circuit off for you so that we can prevent a safety hazard from happening in your home? And this also serves just as well for us to let you know if you have expensive devices like your solar system that's been underperforming over time and there's a need for a service or maintenance for that product. And these are the kind of things we're continuing to build, and these are the kind of push notifications that will come to you without having to do anything different with your product today. We will continue to deliver better value to every homeowner with over-the-air software updates and richer notifications and insights. Thinking about it beyond just us individual homeowners, what we've been intentionally doing over the last year is thinking about how we can be better citizens of the grid or model citizens of the grid. That means, how do we go past the point of being consumers or self-sufficient consumers to being able to provide more to the grid? I'm encouraged by a quote from one of our partners at Green Mountain Power that talked about how the SPAN panel is the natural evolution of the meter. Like, how do we get from being just bidirectional radios providing data to being systems that can offer you a lot more insight and visibility and control to the homeowner? And that's something we've gone ahead and built. So we now have the ability, and I'm really excited to announce SPAN PowerAssist. That's a program that allows you to automatically enroll devices and circuits in your home into what we're calling whole home demand response. The ability for you to be contributors to the solution, which is, how do I reduce consumption when there's a need in the grid for me to reduce consumption? How do I offer up my battery or my vehicle at a different charge rate, or to inject power back into the grid when the grid needs it most? And I'm super excited to say that this is a product that's already being tested by a number of our utility partners. But it's important to realize that ultimately, we need to be able to give the customers the choice to control what's happening in their home. So we give them complete transparency and the ability for them to change what's happening if it's not convenient for them. All of this together is what we envision the home of the future will be, the SPAN home. And if we build enough of these SPAN homes or make enough of the SPAN homes, enough of the homes into SPAN homes, we think we'll be well along the way to execute on our plan. But no plan is successful without phenomenal allies. And I'm really, really excited to have Mary Powell, the CEO of Sunrun, join me on stage. I've known Mary for a good part of a decade, and I can't think of a better ally as we continue to electrify our future.
Oh, so exciting. Oh my goodness, like huge applause. This is so cool. But I was thinking, like, how perfect that I should stand on the stage now, because now we talk about, like, how do we make this happen? How do we create SPAN homes? And, you know, and I actually was thinking, Jonathan, when you were talking, though, about there's nothing else that's 100 years old that we use all the time, I was like, the electric grid, transform, like, there's a lot of 100-year-old stuff out there, right? And so one of the things I love about working with this amazing team at Sunrun is we are all about providing, you know, really the energy grid of the future, one home at a time, up to 630,000 homes. And so one of the things I'm so excited about to be here with you tonight, Arch, is to announce that we are expanding and we are launching a big program tonight with SPAN to get thousands of these into our Sunrunners' homes. So I could not be more excited. Like thousands, like. This is, like, ultimately, in my view, you know, I've been in the energy space for a while. Before that, I got the opportunity to work with 3 governors. God bless you. I, like, so appreciate the work you're doing on the political and regulatory side. But I have worked for well over a decade around what I think is the most powerful force in the universe, and that, or on this planet anyway, which is customers. Customers are such a powerful force. In fact, consumers are a big part of what got us into this problem, right? And so it's really, how can we harness that tipping point to get us out of this problem, to lead our way to a cleaner, greener, more effective future for all. So we could not be more excited about this. We have been working with SPAN for some time now. I am a SPAN home. I'm surprised we didn't do it here.
That's right.
I'm a SPAN home, yeah. And I love it. We were one of the first homes, I think, right?
Southern California,
yeah. We were a SPAN Sunrunner home. So I have solar storage, SPAN EV charging, and I will tell you, everything he's saying is true. It's amazing. I love the SPAN. I love the experience. And really, we are so excited to be partnering together and bringing these to literally thousands of homes, bringing that sex appeal you talked about to electric energy, right? And get consumers excited about what it means to electrify their homes. That's what we need to drive the kind of change that is needed from a climate perspective, from a planet perspective. Customer-obsessed electrification and transformation. So I couldn't be more excited to be here with you tonight, to be a part of this journey. I was reflecting, Arch, I feel like actually the first time we met in person,
Yeah.
Might have been at the, because again, I think everybody knows Arch was like key behind the Powerwall, and it might have been at that.
Let's not talk about Tesla
Oh,
too
okay.
much.
Not allowed to. Okay. Well, it's a part of how
Well,
I
it's
met
about
you.
span
Yeah,
now, so-
exactly. Exactly. Very true. Very true. But it's so remarkable to see what is happening, and I'm just so excited. And at Green Mountain Power, we were able to start some amazing innovations together on this, and it's just so exciting for the future. So I couldn't be more thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
Good. Do you want me to stay up or
Stay.
go down? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Saul, Jonathan,
think you
if
guys
you guys
gotta
are still
come up.
around, come on back. This is the end of the show. I think before I wrap up, my kids are hopefully having dinner and going to bed soon. Thanks for watching via live stream. But thank you everyone else for being over here. These are phenomenal people to have on the SPAN team to help us tell the story and actually electrify the world. Thanks for being here. Enjoy a drink or two.
Is this where we dance?
Thanks.
What's the name?